Session. Previous session we discussed about how to create the pod by creating the deployment. From on top of that, it will be creating the pods along with the replica set. So, if any doubts are there, I'm here to support fully. Don't hesitate to ask any doubts. Just post in the comment section. We will discuss it, both boys and girls. So I did not expect any interruption in my class, and this is the first time I'm requesting you guys. If you have any doubts, you can just ask me so that I can here to support fully. So today we will discuss about architecture of the Kubernetes. Let me write on. This is the Kubernetes architecture. I can simply make it K8 architecture. Okay. So in the architecture there are two nodes are there. One is a master node and one is the worker node. Master node contains a few important components which will be applicable for the entire Kubernetes cluster, and the worker node, which will be the container runtime engine, it will be taken care. Basically here master node, what it will do, it is responsible for managing the Kubernetes cluster by storing the information regarding the nodes in the sense, if once you create the cluster, right, it will be considered as a node, so that it will be storing the information regarding that. And the worker node, which contains the host your applications as a containers. See here you can see that it is completely in the CRI in the sense container runtime engine. Okay, so we see this in the master node. We see some components: API server, etcd, controller manager, and scheduler. So we will discuss each one of it by going through. So first, it is the API server. What it will do, it is the primary component of the Kubernetes, so which is responsible for orchestrating all operations within the cluster. Main reason here is which will exposes the Kube-Api Server, which is used by the external users to perform management operations on the cluster, as well as container to monitor the state of the controller to make necessary changes as required. This is the main task for this. It will exposes the Kube API, which is used by the external users. Then so it is the primary management component, and it first once it receives the request, it will authenticate the request and it validates it. So then it retrieves the data from the etcd cluster. Etcd, we will discuss it. Etcd is a data store. It will store the key value format, whatever the cluster information. I will discuss it. And it retrieves the data from the etcd cluster and responds back to with the requested information. So here etcd, so here we came. So etcd, in the sense, it is the database and data store which will store the information regarding the cluster. Such information like we can say, right, etcd. So it will be storing the data regarding pods, nodes, configs, that means configurations, secrets, bindings, users, roles, etc. etc. It will store the data. So all this information will be stored with the format of key value format, that is the data store. So when you hit the kubectl command, every information, when you hit the kubectl command, you are getting from the etcd a database or data store with the key value format. Okay, So guys, if you have any doubts, you can ask me. I will explain once more. So you got it right. It is the API server. Every communication happening between the API server from worker node to master node. So it receives the data and it validates it and authenticates it, retrieves the data from the etcd cluster, and it will respond back with the requested information. Etcd is a data store. So then controller manager, a controller manager, what it will do, continuously monitors the state of the various components within the system, and which will works towards bringing the whole system back with the desired functioning state. Desired functioning state in the sense, so it will go smooth and transparent manner without any issues. So that will be monitored all the there are two controllers are there in the node controller, replication controller. Node controller within the controller manager responsible for onboarding the nodes into the cluster and handling the situations where nodes becomes unavailable or get destroyed. So it will be handling the situations where nodes becomes unavailable or get destroyed. That is the task. Then replication controller ensure that desired number of containers are running all times in a replication group, and the replication group, the desired number of containers at all time are running, otherwise it will be continuously monitored and responded with the required containers. So then scheduler job is to schedule the pods on the nodes. That means identify the right node to place the container on based on the resource requirements and container resource requirements, the worker node capacity or any other policies and containers, because it is the suppose there is auto scheduling and manual scheduling is there, and so you go with auto scheduling, not required to keep any node name. But if in case of manual scheduling, you need to mention the node name in the spec under the specifications, that is in the pod .yaml file, that will discuss it later. So coming to the worker node, there are two components which will be kubelet and kube proxy. The pod on top of the docker containers, the pod will be good there. So pod is a single instance of an application, that is the smallest object which will be created in the Kubernetes. So we will discuss it in the Kubernetes. Kubelet, so Kubelet is nothing but it is an agent runs on each node in the cluster. So Kubelet in the Kubernetes worker node registers the node with the Kubernetes cluster when it receives. So the main task of the kubelet is to, when it receives the instructions to load a container or pod on the node, so it requests the container runtime engine or docker to pull the required image and run an instance. So if it receives the instructions to load the container, it will container engine docker to pull the image from the docker hub and run an instance. So that is the task for this. And the kubelet continuously monitors to monitor the state of the pod and containers in it and reports to the Kube-Api server. That means wait a second, we will show you. So this is how it will be going on. So every kubelet, right, kubelet continuously monitor the state of the pod and containers in it and reports to the Kube-Api server. It is not required. Okay, then Kube Proxy, this is the, it will check whether the necessary routes are in place for the each node in the Kubernetes cluster. It is main job is to look for the new services, and every time the new service is created, it creates the appropriate rules on each node to forward the traffic to the those services to the backend pods. That is the task of this Kube proxy. Guys, if you have any doubts, I am going with a bit fast. If any issues, you can reach or you can raise a hand, we will discuss it further. Hope you understand this class. If any suggestion comments are more appreciated, we will discuss on this. If you have any doubts with respect to the Kubernetes, and I am giving the job support as well. If any freshers or experienced with the DevOps or Java professionals, you can reach out to me. I'll discuss it. I'm here to clarify your doubts. Do not spend much on this. Institutions, they'll take more 52 to 60K on teaching this kind of lectures. And I'll make you expert in coding with simple YAML file, and you need to do the practice. That is the more important. Even if the candidate don't have the coding knowledge, I will tell you this by making you expert in the coding. The only thing is regularly attend the classes and practice well and do the coding. That is the only concern. Thank you.